Hi guys, so today we're going to be making banana bread. So I want you to get out a pen or a pencil and take notes in your cookbook for this recipe as we're going over it. So the banana bread recipe calls for 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 egg, 1 cup of mashed bananas or 3 medium. I'm just going to give you 3 bananas so you don't need to measure that out. 3/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup cooking oil, 1 teaspoon of finely shredded lemon peel, which is optional. You can cross that off of your cookbook, and 1/2 cup of chopped walnuts or pecans. This will be optional for you. Okay, so looking at the first step, it says to grease the bottom and 1/2 inch up the sides of an 8x4 by 2 inch loaf pan and set aside. So instead of using one standard size loaf pan, we're going to be using these mini loaf pans. So the first thing I want you to do is, with some masking tape, put your name on a piece of tape and label the bottom or the side of your pans. And you'll need to do all 4 of them. Then you're going to be using the cooking spray to grease the bottom and the sides. Okay, so this needs to be at a 90-degree angle as I'm spraying. And then we'll just set these aside. Okay, so the next thing, if you look in your cookbook for step number 1, is to, in a medium mixing bowl, combine the flour, baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon, and 1/8 teaspoon of salt. I want you to underline or highlight the 1/8 teaspoon of salt, because that is not in the list of ingredients, and you don't want to forget the salt. So we need 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour. So here's my flour. I'm going to take a dry measuring cup, scoop this up so that it's overflowing. With a leveler or a butter knife, I'm going to tap it once, level away from me into the container, and I'm going to put it in the larger of the 2 mixing bowls. So there's my 1 cup. Now I need 1/2 cup. Again, I'm tapping it once, leveling away from my body. Okay, next we need the baking powder, I believe. Yep, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. So here's my 1.5 teaspoons. The baking powder comes in a can like this, and we're going to scoop this up so that it's overflowing, and then rub it against that bar that's in the inside. So there's the 1, and here is my 1/2. Okay, setting these aside. Now we need 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So the baking soda comes in a box. My son ripped off the top of this when he was making a bomb. So I'm gonna have to level this off. So I'm gonna scoop this up and then level it in the box. Yours is gonna be so much easier because you have that cardboard flap that didn't get ripped off, okay? We also are going to need 1/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I like ground cinnamon. I like extra cinnamon in my banana bread. So if you like extra cinnamon, you might want to take your measuring spoon and scoop it up so that it's overflowing. Have a heaping 1/4 teaspoon. If not, you can level it off, or if you don't like it, you can just leave it out completely. And now the salt. So I'm going to take the salt and do a couple of shakes of salt into my mixing bowl. With a wooden spoon, I'm going to stir this together. Very lightly stir it together. So in step number 1, it says to make a well in the center of the dry mixture. So a well is a hole. So I'm going to stir this until I get a hole in the middle. Okay, so I'm just kind of brushing the dry mixture up along the side of the mixing bowl. Okay, next I'm going to set this aside. Next, in this mixing bowl, I'm going to start with the bananas. So I'm going to have you peel your bananas, and notice that I'm using rotten bananas. Rotten bananas make better banana bread because they are sweeter. The dark spots that you see are sugar deposits. So they're gonna make your bread a lot sweeter, give it more banana flavor, okay, and they'll be a lot easier to mash. So I'm peeling this, breaking it up into small pieces, and putting it in the mixing bowl. And like I said, you don't need to measure this ingredient. We're just gonna use the 3 bananas that I give you. Okay, and here's my last one. And your banana peels can go right in the garbage when you're finished. So I'm gonna take a fork and I'm gonna mash these. And I'm using this fork to push down on them. I'm not just stabbing them with a fork. You're gonna wanna mash them. And this may take a little bit of time, guys, because you want it to be the texture, the consistency of baby food. So you don't want any big chunks, large chunks of banana in your bread, because it's not gonna taste very good when you go to eat your bread and having a big chunk of banana. You just kind of want it evenly mixed. So I'm pushing it up against the side of the bowl, trying to mash this the best I can. And these are gonna get pretty liquidy as I'm mashing them. I should mention that your ovens will already be preheated when we're making the banana bread, so you don't need to worry about preheating the oven. These are just about done. All right, so I'll show you what this looks like. They should look like this when it's done. It's pretty liquidy. There's no big chunks of banana in here. So from this, I'm going to add the other ingredients. So it calls for 1 egg. So I'm gonna crack this into the custard cup first to check it. Then add it to the bananas. I'm gonna wash my hands real quick because I touched that egg. And I'm gonna stir that egg in with a fork. Okay, I'm also going to add the sugar. So the recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of sugar. There's not a 3/4 cup dry measuring cup. So there's 2 different ways you can do this. You can use the 1/4 cup 3 times, or you can use the 1/2 cup plus a 1/4 of a cup to get 3/4. Okay, so you may wanna write that down in your cookbook. A 1/2 plus 1/4, or the 1/4 you can do 3 times. Okay, so here's my sugar. I'm gonna do the 1/2 plus a 1/4, so I'm gonna scoop this up so that it's overflowing. Level this off. Add this to the banana mixture. So there's my 1/2, and now here's my 1/4. Okay, so again, I'm gonna keep stirring this in with a fork. Next, I need the oil. Okay, so we need 1/4 of a cup of oil. And the oil is going to be a liquid, so we're gonna use a liquid measuring cup to measure this. So I'm gonna make sure that it's on the flat surface. I'm gonna pour this oil in so that it is at the 1/4 line, and then I need to bend down and check it at eye level. Oh, I need just a little tiny bit more. So the oil also gets added to the banana mixture. So I'm gonna stir this all together with my fork until I can get that oil to mix in the best I can. Okay, it is going to kind of settle on the top, which is okay. Just try to get it to stir in, like I said, the best you can. Okay, next we're going to add this bowl of liquid ingredients to the bowl of dry ingredients. I'm gonna pour it right into this well, and it says in your cookbook to add all at once and then stir just until moistened. So that means until you don't see any more dry particles, so you don't see any more flour. You don't wanna over mix this. And I think we've talked about this in class before. When you over mix bread or muffins, it gives a dry texture when it's finished. So you wanna make sure that you get it just until moistened so that it's nice and light and yet still moist. So I'm gonna stir this with a wooden spoon until I don't see any more of that dry mixture. You may need to scrape down the side of your mixing bowl and get all of the dry particles to mix in. So this looks good. I don't see any more dry mixture there. So this is what it will look like when it's finished. And then we're going to pour it into the four prepared pans. So I'm going to move these a little bit closer to me. And I'm going to use a rubber scraper to get this into the pan. So I'm going to use the rubber scraper to get all of the batter off of the wooden spoon. Set this aside, and I'm gonna hold my bowl in one hand while I scoop in the other. So I'm gonna start with the first pan, add a little bit, kind of scrape it down. Then I'll go to the next one, add a little bit, scrape it down, and I'll keep moving down the line, adding a little bit and scraping the bowl. If you need help with this, guys, raise your hand and I'll come over. I'll hold the bowl for you if you're having trouble holding it in one hand, and we'll try to get this evenly distributed between your four pans. Okay, so now I'm just gonna look at it and make sure that it's even. I want the same amount in all of the four pans so that they bake evenly. If I have one that has a tremendous amount of batter in it, it's gonna take a lot longer to bake than the other ones. So I want them pretty well even, which they appear to be pretty even. Okay, now at this point, if you want walnuts or pecans, I haven't figured out what we're gonna use in class yet, but if you want nuts on the top of your bread, then I'll give you some nuts and you'll just sprinkle them along the top and very gently press it into your batter so that it sticks, and then you'll bring your pans to me. So on the island, I'll have a cookie sheet, and you're just gonna put your pans of bread up on the cookie sheet, and I'll put them in the oven for you. Okay, so if you don't want walnuts or pecans on yours, just bring your pans up and put them on the cookie sheet without, and they'll go in the oven without. So at this point, we're on step number 3, and it bakes at 350 degrees, and like I said, the ovens will already be preheated for you. It says for 50 to 55 minutes, or until the wooden toothpick inserted near the center comes out clean. However, we're using small pans, so this is gonna take a lot less time to bake. So they're gonna take about half an hour instead. So I'll put them in the oven for you. I will set the timer for half an hour, and I'll check them with a toothpick. When they're done, I'll take them out, I'll let them cool. I'll wrap each loaf separately, put your name on the top, bag them up, and they will be ready for you to take home at the end of the day. Okay? Don't forget to do your cleanup. So once your banana bread is up the island, make sure you wash your dishes in hot soapy water, wipe down your counter area, put everything back where you found it, and I'll check your area. Okay?